Machiavelli was a Florentine political thinker of the 16th century who provided a piece of great advice for nice people who failed to make it. His argument revolves around a basic, unsettling observation of his. He noticed that the wicked has an enormous edge over the good because they are willing to employ the darkest strategies and cunning methods to further their purposes. The wicked are not hindered by those inflexible change opponents, things like principles. They don't care about it. They will be willing to overtly lie, distort the truth, they will threaten, and often resort to violence. Now, this happens when the situation calls for it. They also will know how to seductively lie, use charm and sweet words, and of course, divert and manipulate. So in this manner, Machiavelli thinks that the wicked win. They conquer the world like this. Now, it is commonly accepted that a significant portion of what it means to be a good person is that one acts properly and that one is committed to good ends using good means. Now, if one desires a utopian, good world, one must persuade others with good and persuasive argument, not clickbait. Now, if one desires a more equitable world, one must use discretion and tact to persuade the agents of injustice to yield voluntarily rather than through coercion. And if one wishes for others to be nice, one must be kind to one's opponent rather than using cruelty. Now, this all sounds amazing, doesn't it? Now, however, Machiavelli could not ignore this fundamental flaw as he sees it. He believed, and of course, it just did not work. When he considers the history of Florence and the Italian states in general, he observes that nice rulers, nice statesmen, and nice business people constantly find themselves in trouble. Now, because of this, Machiavelli penned the book for which he is best known, The Prince. Now, this book is a brief, powerful guide for well-disposed, princes, if you like, leaders, on how not to finish last. And the answer, in a nutshell, is to be as nice as one desires, but never to be unduly devoted to acting nice, and also to know how to borrow when necessary. Every single trick used by the most cynical, devious, and unscrupulous, and of course, and vile people who ever lived. Now, Machiavelli grasps the origin of our futile concern with being nice. Western society was greatly influenced and was shaped by the Christian story of Jesus of Nazareth, a very good man from Galilee who always treated people well and became the King of Kings and the ruler of eternity. But Machiavelli pointed out one problematic aspect of the story of Jesus. He considered the story of Jesus of Nazareth to be an emotional tale of the victory of goodness, true meekness. Machiavelli insisted that Jesus' life was a complete failure, especially from a practical standpoint. This kind and amiable person was crushed and humiliated. He was ridiculed and derided and judged during his lifetime. Without, of course, divine intervention, he was one of history's greatest losers, according to Machiavelli. And therefore, the key to success, Machiavelli argues, is in eradicating all traces of this story. I'm afraid I have to disagree with Machiavelli here, but there we are. Machiavelli's book, The Prince, is not, as it is commonly believed, a guide to becoming a tyrant, but rather a guide to what good people can learn from tyrants. Possibly this is a book about how to be effective, not just good. This book is filled with examples of the powerlessness of good people who have good intentions. Now, Machiavelli advises the good prince, and nowadays we might add the good CEO, the good political activist, or the good thinker. He said that they should learn from the slickest and most cunning operators in this area. They must be able to frighten, intimidate, coax, bully, ensnare, and seduce. For Machiavelli, the good politician must learn from the bad politician. And the earnest and honest entrepreneur must learn from the slick and cunning one. For him, we are ultimately the sum of our accomplishments, not our intentions. Machiavelli cautions us that we will fail if we value wisdom, compassion, goodness, and virtue, but merely act wisely, kindly, thoughtfully, and virtuously. We must learn lessons from an unlikely source, people we dislike the most based on our disposition. For Machiavelli, these people, they have the most to teach us about how to bring about the reality we desire, but which they oppose. Again, Machiavelli argues we require weapons of comparable steel quality to theirs. And of course, the Russia-Ukraine war, and of course the West intervention by sending, in some cases, like-for-like weapons, matching that of the Russians, come to mind here. Now, for Machiavelli, in the end, it is more important to be effective than to have noble intentions. For him, it is not sufficient to dream well. The real measure is our accomplishments. It is not enough to have good intentions and a warm heart. The goal is to alter the world, to change the world for the better. Machiavelli understood this very, very well. And of course, his book challenges us for a good reason, as he probes our most self-serving tendencies. We tell ourselves that we failed because we are a bit too nice, we're a bit too good, and a little bit more charitable. Now, Machiavelli warns us with brazen candor that we are stuck because we have been too myopic to learn from those who truly know, the bad guys, our opponent. So, for some listening to this, no more Mr. Nice Guy from today. That's what you might be thinking. Now, I personally haven't attempted to provide a response or a defense or a rebuttal from a Christian perspective, what I would do is to leave the apologetical heavy lifting for you, the listener, to do. But that's if we really have to do it, you know. It is actually persuasive to listen to Machiavelli's argument. I think he is onto something here. So please now feel free to comment and share your views and thoughts on what I've shared about Machiavelli and his book and his views on his book, The Prince. Thank you for watching.